As most of you guys know, I love to use colored pencils when I'm doing my standalone artworks. Colored pencils give me a level of control and precision that I'm always looking for whenever I'm trying to get that specific look for whatever project that I'm working on. Now, admittedly, my favorite colored pencils to use are these guys right here, Prismacolor Premier Pencils. But lately, I've been using these bad boys right here, the Prismacolor Verithin colored pencils, and I've been getting some amazing results. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Come on, Dave, what's the difference between colored pencils? Well, in this video right here, we're going to talk about it, and hopefully you come out with a whole different perspective. All right, let's go. What's up, fam? It's your boy DKG72, and I'm back with another video. And this video right here, just like I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about Prismacolor Premier and the Prismacolor Verithin. I tend to use both of these pencils, but I've just now gotten into using these guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what's going on inside of these that makes them so different from these bad boys right here, because, you know, probably the most popular colored pencils on the earth right now. So let's talk about what's inside of here. Let's talk about what's inside of there. Let's figure out which one's going to work best for you guys. Alright guys, the Prismacolor Verithin pencil line are made of a 0.7mm hard wax lead with a thin core that's been fitted into a hexagonal barrel. Now, I know that's a lot of technical talk, but it's important in understanding what makes these pencils unique. This harder lead can be sharpened to a much finer point than the Premier line, meaning you can get some highly detailed work out of these pencils. Now, admittedly, because of the different formula, these pencils aren't as vivid as the Premiers, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that's okay. Now, at 0.7mm, the lead is pretty thin, and one thing to keep in mind is that this is a pencil to be used for detail work, drafting, and maybe even some lettering. Heavy handers beware, as the thin lead will break, and depending on the paper you're using, they can get this scratchy look that I'm not too fond of. Personally, I like to use these pencils when I'm doing my pen and ink work. Like here, check out Catwoman. So one of the cool things about using the Verithins is that this hard pencil lead, I should say, doesn't overwhelm my ink line. So now the ink and the colors stand out and they work really well together. That's one of the benefits of using this harder pencil lead, and it's one of the things that I've noticed when I'm putting in work using it. One of the things that I've also found with these guys is that they work really well with CANSON paper, of course, but I'm pretty sure they're going to work really well with any of the high-end papers that we're used to using, you know, the Strathmores and all those guys of the world. What you want to avoid, though, is that scratchy effect comes in when you use it on some cheap paper. Like I had a little time when I was drawing on really cheap paper just to draw, because it was just that time, and I noticed that scratchy effect when I was drawing on some line paper, things like that, because that paper is really, you know, it's just really thin and cheap. Definitely make sure that you're using a quality paper, at least CANSON or above. So how do these pencils differ from the Premier pencils? Well, I'm glad you guys asked that question. Let's check it out. Right off the bat, the biggest difference between the Verithins and the Premier is the formula for the lead. The Prismacolor Premier pencils utilize a soft wax core that literally has the colors bleeding into the paper. They are much brighter than the Verithins, and while the Verithins are good for intricate detail work, the Premier pencils are the blending kings. Really, no other pencil blends like these guys, and it's to the point you don't have to introduce any kind of accelerant to help you get that buttery smooth blend that you want. Although I do recommend a dab of baby oil just to add some extra flavor. Now, these pencils are round instead of hexagonal, and the lead on the inside is way thicker than the lead that's on the inside of the Verithins, which is why it's perplexing that these pencils are prone to breaking. I guess it's because the lead is so soft. They don't sharpen as keenly as the Verithins either, but when you're getting those blends, I don't think you'll care. So for me personally, when I'm using these pencils, guys, I'm using them for more of my more artistic works, I guess you would say. Like, I'm not trying to use them with any other medium. I'm really trying to get those great blends. There was just that vibrant color that you get from these guys. So it's really not as necessary to use them with anything else like watercolor or pen and ink or anything like that. Now you can, but because these things blend into the paper and bleed into the paper so well, they tend to overwhelm pen and ink, and to some extent they don't always mix well with others. Always beware when you're using them of how they act with other mediums. Watercolors, they do pretty good though. My recommendation paper wise would be high-end paper, Strathmore, CANSON and higher, obviously. I would also say that smooth paper and vellum paper gives you wildly different results. You really need to consider that when you're getting ready to use these particular pencils, and you need to consider how that texture is going to play into your artwork. That's something that you're going to have to figure out. Those are the things that you're going to have to think of ahead of time before you even get into using these or even the Verithins. So what's the best Prismacolor pencil to use? Well, it kind of depends on what project that you guys are working on. Now when I'm working on some pen and ink works, or I need to just draw something out and I want it to look real cool and I need to really sharpen line, gotta go with the Verithins. That's going to give me everything that I'm looking for as far as quality, colors, those types of things. But if I'm trying to create something like my Harlem Globetrotters piece that I did last year, and I really need those colors to blend and blend perfectly, nothing beats the Premier. Nuts. So the Premier, definitely the blending kings. The Verithin, they're kind of like the utility player, the Jose Kendo of colored pencils. So you can use it for a whole lot of different things. Whereas with the Premiers, they're literally for just those big budget, high energy, beautiful color artworks that don't require any other medium other than the colored pencil itself. Alright guys, if you love this video, please go ahead and hit it with the big thumbs up and share this all over the internet. If you're new here, I'd love for you to subscribe and join the family. And if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can always get in touch with me on Twitter and Instagram at DKG72. You can always follow me on my Facebook fan page and on my TikTok. Those are David Gordon 72. And if you guys really enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, the link for my Patreon will be listed in the description below. Alright guys, so I hope this helped you figure out what it is that you're looking for when you're deciding between the Prismacolor Verithins or the Prismacolor Premier pencils. If that's the case, then I was just glad to be of service. On that note guys, it's your boy DKG72. I'm out and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.